perhaps understand and discuss. I just want to talk about the planning with the community, and also through the process. I hope we can have a chance to understand what is town planning, town planners, and the community like in Hong Kong. Because a lot of my friends always ask me the question, what do you do? What town planners do? Tonight, I hope through the process, we can have a chance to see more. In terms of the community planning, I think there are different aspects between like a private sector, public sectors will also engage in the community planning. Tonight, I try to focus from the angle of like the public sectors, which is like the planning department, what we do. I'm not saying we are the only ones, but we tend to cover a large area in terms of planning work. I think in maybe other contexts, there will be a chance to talk about community planning through perhaps private sectors or the young groups, whatever. In the Hong Kong Institute of Planner, we have a young planners group. They carry out a number of like community planning. Maybe on other occasion, we have a chance to look at it and share with you. So tonight, I'll focus on the public sectors one. In terms of planning, perhaps I go through to like a more simple and easy direction. They cover like the territorial planning and the so what we call like local or district planning. The picture on top is a territorial one, so it doesn't divide into different districts. It covers the entire of Hong Kong, and perhaps to do with the cross-boundary or regional context. In the local one, of course, you can see it's divided into different districts, so it will cover different aspects of planning in the local sense. So when we talk about planning, so what is it? Perhaps, I don't know whether you watch football or not, but I see the linkages between the planning and the football game or football team. That is the conventional 4-3-3 formation for a football team. So and they divide into 3 sections. The first one is the forward. You have 3 players. In the midfield, the 3 players, and then the defender. What I'm trying to do is to perhaps draw some kind of like comparable. Go through the forward planning, and then the midfield and defense, and then how to cover these area in terms of the planning with the community. I will start with the forward planning first. Forward planning is cover the entire territory. We quite commonly known as the territorial planning or the future strategy of Hong Kong. For example, the 2030 plus planning studies. But that is not the only way we look at the planning studies. There are other aspects. For example, we have the New Durham area, the building of New Town. That is also a part of the planning studies. And also the other one will be the thematic side, which cover like the, for this one is the urban design study of the Wan Chai and North Point harborfront. So it's focus on the waterfront of Hong Kong and how to bring in different ideas, whatever. So that is the opportunities we can work with the community. So in the planning context or the planning studies, we usually have like an overall community engagement timeline and programs. Right now, we usually have like what we call a 2 stages one. So in the entire studies, there will be 2 stages of public engagement. Or sometimes for more specific studies, it may go into 3 stages. So roughly, we look at the 2 stages first. The first stage usually cover a broad idea or what we call the envisioning. So what we want to achieve or think about. And And that is the area we want to bring out the general concept and idea. And the second stage will be more in terms of the proposal, more specific ones, and then the future direction, and provide some kind of choices. So leading to the final conclusion of the studies or recommendations. In the process of the planning with the community, we usually take in what we call the multi-channels approach. I think that's important is to provide information. The first stage is to provide sufficient information. Then the community will have a better chance for more informed discussions. On that, there are three major, you can say, channels. The first one is the more conventional one, is the print information, for example, like the booklets, the pamphlets. Well, you may think it's like a bit old-fashioned, but I would think and also see the beauty and benefit of it. We'll look at it in a minute. The other one is, of course, the nowadays we always go to the internet, and that there will be like dedicated websites to provide informations, and also to provide some kind of like preview. Again, I'll come to that in a minute. And the third one is a series of public events. So it's more directly, proactively engaged with different sectors of the community. So usually we have the exhibition, a kind of briefing, a talk, and then the other one will be the workshop. And I'll try to cover that in a minute. First, we start with the more conventional one, is the information booklet and the digest. I use the urban design studies of the Wan Chai and the North Point waterfront as an example. So in the next few slides, I'll draw on the information from that. That is the stage one of the consultation or the engagement materials. So it's the printed materials. It provides the ideas and also the reference. So it first outlined the objectives or the purpose of the studies. And also it provides the background, usually what we call the constraint or characteristics of the area, and also the likely problems or issues involved in the study areas and also around. So these the main study area and also the area interfacing with the study areas. And with the basic area coverage, some people will know whether it's inside, outside, or where how likely it would impact onto them. Another very important part is to set out a number of key principles. I'm not saying these principles will be all agreeable, but at least that is a starting point to find out what are the basic principles we can work with. And if throughout the consultation, we bring in new ideas. And also another thing is that how to rank eventually the importance and also the order. We want to create like a gradual step-by-step approach and then leading to the proposals. So the proposal we have for the stage one, usually a broader concept as to what would be like, whether people can consider or how to integrate or interlink with these. So they are more conceptual. So unlike the usual final proposal, it will be a more crude and raw in a sense. But that would help to bring in a wider area of like imaginations and thoughts. So eventually, the main purpose is to allow different people to imagine, and that is exactly the focus of the envisioning stage. Of course, you have to ask people's opinions, so their views, what they consider will be more important. So you have like this one, the vision. I think that is an important part, is to share visions. What would the vision of the different people? And from then on, we can build other focuses and priority and what to take forward. As I said before, it's important to allow people to know how to contact you. So usually we have like the address, a dedicated phone number, fax number, emails, and of course, as I said earlier on, there will be a dedicated website. Nowadays, a dedicated website is very important because it provides 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 12 months throughout the years. Anytime you can get access to it. And you can look at the information available, what the background, like the booklet and historical information, what is it about? And more importantly, it will provide a preview as to what will be the things to come. For example, different events is coming, and then the date, the type of the event, the time, and the venue, where it would be, and roughly in what form. Again, it's important to provide a clear timeline for different events so people can prepare to join and also likely format what they are expecting. I said earlier on is the public event. The first one usually is a form of exhibition. Exhibition is to show the basic information, somewhat similar to the booklet, but again, you would say, is it the same thing? Well, it will be different, provide a little bit more depth, and more importantly, it is an event to bring in, to increase the awareness. And also we have a chance to have people like a staff to talk with different people, to bring in, to allow them to understand something that's coming up. Again, encourage them to join in the next stage of all these events. Apart from the exhibitions, of course, we have the briefing and workshop. That is a more focused and interactive one, and there are usually different types. The first one group, or perhaps is the local and then the community groups. So people perhaps living around the area, and perhaps they provide services within that study areas, or they use the services within that particular area. So that is the local community, apart from the residents, the retail or other business operator within the area. The second group, usually what we call the focus or topical groups. So there are people or issue that specifically relate to that study or area. For example, in Hong Kong, people concerned about like the traffic, the transport arrangements. So the transport and traffic or logistic groups will be an important one. In the design of the waterfront, there are specific issues involved. For example, whether we allow more pet gardens, so the animal groups, welfare groups will be something we need to discuss with them. At the same time, apart from walking, a lot of people would think about perhaps we should encourage people cycling along the waterfront. So the cyclist group would be another group we need to engage to bring in knowledge or their views on specific topics. And of course, there will be the usual professional group. We see the major professional institutes, for example, the Hong Kong Institute of Architects, the planners, the landscape architect, engineers, and urban design like these. These are the usual professional groups. They may be engaged or involved as a professional institutes, or individual members can join in because they have the special knowledge and also expertise on certain area that would bring in a more fruitful and more interesting angles into the discussions. So after talking about the groups, let's look at the event. That is the one of the events, a workshop. And this one is particularly significant because it's not just like done by the study group, but it is in conjunction with like district council and perhaps sometimes a local organization to bring in or target different interest people. Now, after looking at this one, then let's look at the next one. So what's the differences between this one and the previous one? Well, I've said it from time to time, we'll test our ability to spot the differences. This one is a lot of the events that are done in the open area, in a more like informal settings, and target to a group of like residents in the elderly, whatever residents. So again, the event will be tailored and then use different format to allow different people to participate. That is not just like confined to like a rather formal setting. It could well be a very informal settings, freely people can express and also share the ideas. Apart from the workshop, of course, there will be more formal one. For example, there will be some kind of like note cards or even questionnaire surveys. So people can actually provide their comments, concerns, or whatever the feedbacks they can bring along. So use this kind of information, you can follow the analysis. The form may not be actually provided or filled in by the person involved, because like earlier on, you saw the pictures, through the dialogue or discussions, the helper can actually help to write down what the participants' concerns. So instead of asking people to go through all the questions, then you can just talk to them, and then you can drop down the points they raise. After all these, I'm sure you will think, what is the next stage is the more conventional one. You get a collection of information and analyze the results. For example, what people like, what kind of activities they would like to see along the different areas. So the new waterfront precinct, what would they like? So that is the a kind of like statistical analysis, but at the same time, there are certain preferences or certain concerns. So these are also important. All these information will consolidate into like a report. So that is, as you can see, the stage 1 public consultation report. That is, again, an important milestone for 2 reasons. First, it consolidates all this information for the next stage of work, so you can prioritize what people's concerns are about. And also, as a actual involvement or engagement, we have to try to provide a basis and then also the record for those people we have engaged, they involved in it. What are the concerns? So there will be a clear sort of like document to record all these things. So again, people can look back onto the document as a kind of record, and also other people can look at it as a way to start the next stage as well. As I mentioned about this next stage, of course, there will be the next stage. So that is the second stage. Again, it's quite similar. We have the Consultation Digest. So again, what's the differences between the first stage and second stage digest cover design? If you can remember, the angle is slightly different, although it's also the Convention Exhibition Center. But instead of seeing the Admiralty side, now we are the angle shift to this side. And then you can see a little bit more kind of like idea and proposal into it. The general text are more or less the same, but the image is slightly different. So usually in this kind of a document, they will recap the public views in the first stage. So what are the public concerns, and what are the likely direction people share? And these are the things we usually document in the report. So whoever coming into it can have a quick recap of what happens before. And if they want to go into more detail and specific, they can go back to that consultation report I showed you earlier on as to the details. After the introduction of the previous stage, of course, there will be the actual substance. What would be the vision, and then the design consideration. These are the elements or the attributes to take forward in the second stage to actually develop into a kind of like proposals, or how they can merge together, or can they be merged together, or can they be coming together. That is also part of the studies and final recommendations. Similar to the stage one, the event will be in a way similar, but in terms of the focus and the depth, and in terms of the detailedness, you will see a lot more coming into it. So the activity itself is more or less similar. Again, the local group, the focus topics, and also the professional groups. So these are the usual three groups of player who will be coming in. And of course, there will be time to ask questions. So what would be the views of the community on different aspects? So you have to figure out a number of questions, again, similar to the stage one. So you bring in different questions, bring out different questions, and then bring out different ideas, and to see how people feel and how they think it should be taken on. Looking at the planning studies, I think in terms of the engaging with the community, it has a more flexible timeline and events. And also the event itself, both in terms of the information and the event itself, themselves, they can be tailor-made to different groups. So we've seen different age groups, they can be tailored, and then in terms of the information, can slightly modify it, and then to fit in to get the best results. And then we can target certain groups or organization. That means in different topics, we can bring in different organizations, different groups. Now, of course, there will be dedicated inquiry contacts and informations. So that is the general approach in terms of the planning study side. So after seeing this one, I will go back to the next stage of planning, and we'll go back to this picture. So we'll look at the midfield. So in terms of the actual work and planning, so what is the actual midfield in so far as planning and the community is concerned? I think the outline zoning plan is perhaps a component to linking different stage, like the forward planning and also the final control side. Before I go on, perhaps I try to talk a little bit about the outline zoning plan. The outline zoning plan is a plan specifying different land uses. You can see different colors, and also different control parameters. For example, the plot ratio, the building height, and the type of users involved. And also it specifies the types of users that they are always permitted. That means you can go ahead and build it. And the other uses that you require permission. In that, I need to bring in another component in terms of the plan itself. In Hong Kong, the statutory plan or the outline zoning plan is actually issued or prepared under the town planning ordinance, and it released by the town planning board. The town planning board is the statutory body under the town planning ordinance. So it's served by the planning department, a government department who provide services and executive as the executive arm of the town planning board to discharge the functions prescribed under the town planning ordinance. So that is the general making of the outline zoning plan I mentioned in the last slide. And the outline zoning plan will cover, for example, the new domain area. This is one of the new domain area we planned in the northwest of new territories in Hong Kong, in Hong Shui Kiu. It covers the entire area of new developments as a next generation of new town. Again, it gives you the land zoning, the users, things like that. But it is not only the new development area you see the outline zoning plan. In fact, most of the time you will see the amendment to the outline zoning plan, like this one. So the amendment itself is talking about amending a certain land parcel or areas. So they change the land uses. For example, an area used to be shown as industrial may now be rezoned to business use, or an open area is rezoned to open space for a park and recreational facilities development. That is the usual things. But it is not, when you see this plan, that is the public or community engagement. In fact, well before this plan is known to end or seen be released, it would be in the public knowledge already. The reason why is that before this plan is released, formally released or gazetted, the proposed changes will go through to the district council. It's always an important element in terms of the land use planning or the zoning plan. When there is proposed changes, the first thing is to bring the proposed changes to consult the district council. Like this one, you will go to the respective district council. Then you have to find which committee to go to, and also arrange a date with the committee, and also the time you need to go before the committee. And at the same time, will provide a kind of a consultation, a document of discussion paper outlining the proposed changes in more detail and specific terms, and the reason behind for these proposed changes. At the next stage, what we're going to do, and of course, a plan showing what will be the proposed changes and amendments. And these discussion documents will be released on the district council website. So it would be public information and knowledge. And the elected members of the district council will discuss the matter at a meeting. And colleagues from different departments will attend the meeting and try to explain a different issue, the plan and proposals, and also listen to what the district council members consider and try to communicate with them. For example, if they consider certain aspect need further explanation, there may be another further meeting or discussion. So that is the major function or the focus of these dialogue. So after the district council meeting and also the comments from the district council members, all the information will be reported back to the town planning board. They would consider the feedbacks or comments from the district council and then decide whether they should proceed ahead with the proposed amendment, the changes to the plan. If they think it should go ahead, then you will see the proposed changes and the amendments. You may think, well, that is not really community planning because it's only once you go to the district council, that's it. But in fact, that is not, you are exactly right, that is not exactly the end of the community planning, because in fact, in terms of the zoning plan amendment, that is the beginning, and there will be other process to come, which I will try to explain. Once the plan is gazetted or released to the public, then there will be at the same time newspaper notice on the telling all the general public about the amendment to the zoning plan. And usually this type of newspaper advertisement will appear in 2 Chinese newspaper and 1 English local newspaper. And the amendment will allow any members of the public to put in their comments in a period of 2 months' time, so they can provide written comments or representation how they think about the proposed changes. And also it was specified where and how members of the public can see the details of the information. The usual location will be the town planning board secretarial. You can go there and then look at the changes. There will be an area you can sit down, although it's not very elegant, but it is good enough. And also these different materials like the plan, which one is changes or amended, information will be available there. So they can easily make reference to it and then look at it. At the same time, the planning department inquiry counter, people can also go in there and have a look. And also in terms of different district, you can go to the district office, and in the new territories, they can go to the rural community office as well. I mentioned about the public comment or representation. Any person can submit a written representation to the town planning board. They can write a letter, they can send email, they can fax and post a letter, whatever. So long as like a written representation, it would be and received within the period, the 2 months period, it would be taken as a representation. And of course, you will say, well, writing letter is not fashionable now. Then there will be you can use the website. Again, anytime you can go onto the website, and then there will be notice telling you which plan is now available for public comment. Then you can use a more interactive map base. If you do not know where is it, then you can go through using the map base to go through and browse through the area. And after finding the area, then you can go into the forms. So it will automatically tell you which area you pick, and then you can provide your information, for example, your name as a representative, and also you can authorize an agent to do it. In the second part, you can provide the nature of and the reasons for representation. You're not saying that you only allowed to oppose to the proposal when filling the form. In fact, you can see here, you can actually support or oppose different amendments. If there are 5, then you can say, I support 1, 2, 3, but oppose to 4 and 5. And also you have the reason. And each one you have the 8,000 characters to put it in. I'm not very good at writing, so 8,000 words is a lot for me already. So I don't think I can do anything more than that. And then the following part is what we call the proposed amendment. What you want the town plan board to change. What is your proposal? For example, if they propose residential area to change to office, then you may not like it. You do not like office building there. Then you may suggest it should be changed to a open space, build a park there instead. So that is the idea or proposal the representative can put it in. And the final part, you can see there's a personal information. That is the personal particulars and contact of the representative. But this part will not be made public. Now, there's an important differentiation here. The part we saw earlier, they will all be made public. So that means people can know who would be opposing or supporting and the reason behind. But this part is not. This part is only used by the secretarial to contact the representative later on. And I'll explain to that in a minute. All the information, as I said, will be public, made public and released, so everyone can have a chance to see it. These information, the representation will be released, and there will be a chance for other people to make comments onto this representation. They have like 3 weeks time on the day of the publications to provide comment. Again, you can make use of the website. So you can see now here, the plan itself, what are the representation. Here, it's got 136. Then you can click onto it and see exactly what like this before. What were the comment and the focus, and then you can make your comment. That means, again, in terms of the plan, similar to the representation, making comment is similar in a way that you provide certain personal information, and also you can put in the reason why you support or not supporting. So you can support it, you can oppose it, or you're not opposing or not supporting. You just provide certain view. So it does not necessarily to be opposing or supporting. Again, you can make use of the space using the 8,000 words limit to put it in. Again, similar to the other part, there will be the personal information part. You provide the personal information. Why? Because the secretarial will contact you later on. And also that is to ensure people are not sort of abusing the system to launch multiple ones by the same person. And also that's important that in terms of allocation of times, I'll come to that in a minute. After all these presentation, comment, this is the comment will be published again. So all the representation, comment, everything will be made public. So everyone can see them. And finally, after all these information, the planning department will prepare what we call the town plan paper to outline all the representation received, the comment received. What are they? What are the main focus of them, their proposals, and also the assessment as to the planning consideration and assessment, and of course the planning department's assessment as to whether these comments or proposals should be taken forward or not. all this information or the paper, again, will be available on the internet, and also it will be not just provided to the board member at a town plan board meeting, because on these occasions, the town plan board meeting is not just between the board members. There will be different players. Apart from the board members, there will be government departments representative, the representative, and the commenter. The earlier non-disclosed part, the personal information and contact, that is to arrange a time to contact these groups of people, to arrange a time to ask them whether they want to come before the board to present the case, or they want to join the meeting. So if they do, what they normally do is that each can attend in person, and they will allocate around 10 minutes, and they will be assigned with a certain date and time to come in. So before they join the meeting, they will wait, and then there is a public waiting room, wait for them to wait. And once the item is discussed, what they can actually come before the board members. These are the board members sitting there, and then each representative or commenter, they can have a chance to present their argument. So what normally happens is that the government department will give an outline to the situation, and then the representative or the commenter can state their case, and then the board members will ask questions. They can ask the government official or the representative or commenter, or ask the same question and ask all of them or both of them to answer. So after the interaction and the dialogue with all these groups, the board members will make a deliberation and decide the case. They can either agree to not agree to changes, or agree to certain changes. So the result will be published through a gist of decision. If they decide to agree to the commenter proposer and propose further changes to the plan, so we go back to what the amendment is about. So they go through the process again. So they publish and then invite comment, and then it goes roughly like that. So I cover the plan making part. So with the plans, there will be certain control and guidance. So it goes back to the final part is the defense. The plan also provide a kind of a defense, or in a way you can say the first line or the last line, depends who you are. Some of the developer or proposer, they will see as a first line because for them it's a first hurdle. But increasingly, the public will see as a last line, so they expect the officials to help to defend sort of public interest. Hong Kong is like that. It's a high density, a compact development with a green backdrop. It's very intense. So development is really keen and attract much public attention, especially like in the urban areas, or nowadays rural areas as well, because of the ecological concerns. We have a narrow street, a lot of people, so a lot of developments will attract local concerns. I don't know whether you've been out to the street shopping or whatever recently with conditions slightly improved, but if you go out walking along the street, I'm not sure you have seen something like that before. Yes, there's a notice about planning application. The certain developments, they require planning permission. So that means, well, they require the approval of the town planning board before they are allowed to proceed. So that is the first line or the last line I've said. when the time you see one of these notice, in fact, a lot of things have gone perhaps unnoticed to many. There will be notice in the or advertisement in the newspaper to tell public there will be plan application or proposal in the area. Of course, a lot of people now saying, I don't read newspaper, so these things are useless to me. Well, yes. The people living around the development site, for example, the incorporated owners or the management office, they have already received perhaps a letter telling them there is a plan application around the area, and invites them to provide comments and also tell them where they can get access to the information. Again, similar to the plan, the colleagues from the town plan board will put up all these things, different dates and the plan applications. Then you can actually go to the town plan board secretarial to have a look at the information and about the proposed development and how it would likely to affect you. And at the same time, the planning department's inquiry counter. The arrangement is similar to the outline zoning plan. Anyone who is concerned about can put in the comment through a written means, for example, letters or fax, and send it to the town plan board. Usually, it's within 3 weeks from the days of the notice. And of course, it will be available on the website. For example, here, you can see the application for plan application permission. So anyone can use the interactive platform to provide information. And you can see the public instruction where you can get hold of the information, you can see them. And the deadline of submissions. And of course, pages, and by clicking in it, there will be a giving you the basic information. For example, the key parameters of the proposal. For example, building height, the type of users, the plot ratio, the parking spaces, things like that. And on top of that, it would provide a kind of executive summary provided by the applicant and some associated plans. So people can get a rough idea as to the proposal, what is it? Of course, the interactive form, similar to the other one, but instead of the plan number, you've got the application number. Again, there was 2 parts. One is the public side. That means you can have your name and your comments. These will be made public. And these non-disclosed similar. And by the time the all this information collected, they will be made public. That means, well, people can actually see what are the concern of the public. And also, it's important in the sense that because we tend to ask the applicant, the developer, to make responses to the public comments and concerns, how they want to address them. If they decide to make amendment changes, then we go back again, look back again, and then maybe publish, and then seeking further public comment. Again, the 8,000 words is there, so you make use of your 8,000 words. By the time all these are collected and consolidated in the submissions to the town plan board, there will be a dedicated paragraph about the public comment received during the statutory publication period. So what are the public concerns about that particular proposal? And when presenting to the town planning board, the planning departments will the public comments and also whether there will be supporting or opposing comments received. That is the standard procedures. So it's always mentioned and to draw the members' attention before they make a decision. And the town planning board members can decide whether they want to defer the case, approve it, or reject it. From these two parts, we can see the statutory plan making and that planning application, they are following the town planning ordinance. So there will be like a fixed time period, and all the events and timelines are fixed. So no one will have the authorities to change it. So we follow the timeline and process. And there will be a right to be considered. So all the comments received will be presented to the board for considerations. So that is a standard procedures. And all these information or standard notice, they are all standardized. So they are in a way clear, but it would not be gathered for or tailored for different groups. So we will assume, they will assume all the things are, all the different groups or community will be the same in terms of dissemination of information. And there will be like a general inquiry contact, but there will be no specific case one. I cover all these parts in terms of the planners and the community. Planning with the community, planners will do perhaps two parts. One is the connected part and the share. The share shift, but doesn't mean that it's a side with anybody. The connect one is that in the process, is try to connect the community, the professional, and also the future development. Time is connect the past, present, and the future. But other than connecting, it's more important to forge forward, is to provide some shared idea, values, and concepts, so we can take the things into the next stage. I've talked about the plannings and the community. I like to spend a little bit time to cover certain observation in terms of what the general community or response is like. I like to do that through 5 songs. Unfortunately, because of copyright and other things, I'm not able to play you the song and the tunes. But perhaps tonight, when you have time or over the weekend, you can go back and then try to look at it or, well, listen to it. The first song is longer. In terms of the community engagement or consultation, we tend to see a lot of comments about the duration of the engagement, why it cannot be covered longer in terms of the individual events and also the entire program of engagement. Whether we have more interaction with the community in terms of the proposal, development, things like that. Right now, most of the events in terms of the planning studies, it will be carried out mainly in the evening or usually Saturday. People in Hong Kong, they're relatively busy. So if you start 6 o'clock, it would be too early. They haven't finished work. If you start at 8 o'clock, people will find it maybe a bit too late. if the event runs to around 10 o'clock, people find it too exhausting. So that is the tricky part. The same thing as like for Saturday, because Saturday, some people need to work. The other will think, oh, it's part of my family day. I need to do other things. And also there's a situation, a lot of time, maybe some different types of events will be concentrate on Saturday. So that means on a Saturday, you may have 1 or 2 or 3 events. So that is the difficult part in finding like a suitable time. Apart from a longer consultation or interaction period, the next one is a late 1990s song. It's called The Big, Big World. I don't know whether you believe the universe is getting bigger or getting smaller. Depends on which side you or what kind of theory you believe. But in terms of the engagement or the community side, there are more and more different parties involved. And because there are different groups interested in the planning and development of our cities. So provide a wide enough coverage and sufficient representation is always a point of contention. We always see people considering the coverage or representation, they are not sufficient. So who you want to cover will be always on the agenda. Apart from the usual transport professional groups, there are other groups as well. So, and also there are, for the past few years, we see a lot of what we call the newcomers. What is newcomer is that for major studies, it may last for 1 or 2 years. The one who joined in the second stage who may not agree with the first stage result. So there will be a kind of a, you may say, disagreement and sharing with what can be taken on for the future stage. And the approach is different, and also how to look at the relatively silent majority. So that is something in terms of the event is need more thinking. The third song I would like to say is the Last Christmas. I think it's the song from mid-1980, but this one becomes like modern classics, because every Christmas you can see the song playing in the shopping center and different places. Like Christmas, people have like different wishes. They want to achieve certain things. The same thing as the when you plan with the community, different people have the different expectation. The situation is that, like a Christmas tree, you want more things onto it to look bright, colorful, and festive. But at the same time, you have to be selective enough to put what to put onto it. If you put not the quite right types, then it would sidetrack or blur your focus. So how to find like a clear objectives and stay to the main focus, that would be increasingly challenging. But at the same time, people will talk about they want to different things. For example, a local, relatively local studies, people will bring in a broader issues involved. They expect you to provide a solution as to a range of issues. So that is the interesting developments nowadays. And the fourth one is a song in the late 1970s, is called Anak. It's a Philippine song. is talk about the child and parents. By the way, anak, I think it's translating to my child, my children. The song's about the apparent conflict. As the child growing up, it has different views with the parents. So he thinks he outgrown and outsmart his parents. I think it's a reflection or a mirror of all our own changes or upbringing. That is particularly relevant to us because professional people, by training, they have their own views, strong views, and confidence on certain things. They would make a, let's call it judgment on certain things. But in terms of the community work, I think the most important thing is to turn on the listening mode instead of judging too fast. And also, people tend to defend their idea and positions. I'm not saying you shouldn't explain. Explaining is different from defending, and try to silence the others. So in terms of the process, I think it's important to turn on the listening mode, active listening mode, to be humble and have the empathy in terms of looking at and engaging different people. I think it's important in a way, in particular, those less ready to express themselves. And also another situation in the past few years, there will be people who would perhaps challenge, even it goes on to personal attack and humiliating you. I think people involved should be steadfast and try to maintain the posture in terms of what they want to achieve is to listen and not to take it too personal. And the last one, you may say, how come there's no Cantonese songs? So yes, I'll come to that. The last one is Cantonese songs. It's from one of the TV series. It's difficult to explain, but the background of the TV episode is to do with novels. A famous novel is translated or turned into a TV series. What I like to draw is that the two things. In terms of the song itself, is composed by Joseph Koo, a famous composer, and the lyrics was by James Wang. I think they work together and create a lot of different pieces of songs, very popular ones. I picked this one because, well, this one in terms of the music, it mixed with the Chinese and the Western style of instrument to create different effects. From the gives you the impression of like the northern China scene, and also horse gobbling along the highway, the road. That is in the music itself. And in terms of lyrics, it's also highly praised because it comes into something very unique. First, it's the story itself is involving a lot of character, but the lyrics itself, it doesn't mention any particular character. It allows you to think, but it's in simple language, it's matching, simple, and has mirror a lot of the character of the poem of the Chinese, the old conventional Chinese poems. Why I mentioned this one is to do with the materials we provide. all the consultation or engagement, there will be certain information or dialogue. So we have to think about how we create these images, how we prepare these materials in terms of written words, diagram, charts, whatever. We have to look at the people who studied it, who will receive it, interpret it. So complex may be your idea, brilliant may be idea, storyline, but turn it into simple, layman, easy, digestible format would be the vital key. But again, the advantages sometimes for professionals, because they will interpret things they were very familiar, quickly, fast, efficient, but to most people, it's the difficult things to swallow. I go back to this one. This one is about the beginning. I use this photo because I think just like maybe many of you, just like me, when I start the design school, I learned with the column, the arch, and symmetrical design. So I like it very much. That's why I picked this one. But for this design, it covers like a lot of people interacting. So the interesting thing is the design and the people. So I think the planning and the architecture profession, there's a whole sort of things we can interact and communicate and work together. But people seems to be one thing, but in fact is so interesting. And just like the trees, they are trees, but in fact they are different in a way that they have different shapes, different color, different things. And also at different times, they may come in differently. Despite all the things, all the 5 songs and design, well, the downside, I think there's still interesting, is it perhaps another song we can look on is this one. It's Amigo para siempre. That means, well, friends forever, if I remember correctly. If you think the event is to build friendship, to look at different things, to bring people together, rather than going through a difficult structuring process, I think the community and planning and design work will be much more interesting. In my presentation, I use materials from these government websites. I believe all of them are public information, so I don't think I've infringed on any copyright law. Planning with the community, I think we can work together, and that is my short presentation tonight, and I hope you can enjoy it. Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you, Mr. Ng's sharing. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah, I believe Mr. Ng is a football lover and also songs lover. Okay, for members, if you have questions, please type in the chat room. And then I would like to invite Macau, AAM Christine, Chairman. Yeah, is there any question from Christine? Can let Christine in? Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Ng.
Hi. Yeah.
Thank you. Very, very insightful presentation. It's actually, I believe our members are very excited because I'm sure you also know that the draft of the Macau Master Plan actually just released, and it's actually under hearing comments from the public. So I believe it's something very similar to your phase 1, I believe, and then because our next phase will be the detailed design phase. Yeah, and something very interesting because as you probably know as well, our 36 kilometers square of Macau, around 650,000 people population, is actually like one district of Hong Kong, like, similar, one of the, similar scale. And what I want to maybe ask is, with your experience in the planning department, a lot of engagement with community. When you actually get the information back and comments from the community, how much difference would it be differ from your previous, prediction or assumptions? And as you already probably have a lot of data from previously. Did we just lost the speaker? Hello? Maybe we'll just wait for them to come back.
Yes. So hi, Christine. 我聽唔到佢把聲，可唔可以 open 佢？開唔開到佢先？唔係，佢等你開俾佢啊，unmute佢。問到佢。
Hello, back. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So sorry.
Okay, we're back. Technical difficulties solved. Now we can get back to the planning problems. Okay. My question was, with your experience in the planning department, I'm sure there's a lot of data collected from the community by previous study. For the actual comments, every time the new comments that comes in, how different is it might be from your prediction or assumptions? Is that clear, the question?
Yes. For my own experience, I think if you are talking about like the first stage and second stage like that, we more or less will know through the different events to gauge the major pulse or what people are thinking. So in terms of the those who have been involved in the process, I think we have a good understanding as to the general line of thinking. But as I mentioned earlier on, there were some, for the past few years, there's what we call the newcomer. They may not actually involve in the event, maybe in the early stage. So they appear like in the later stage. So they will somehow question or perhaps you can put it like challenge certain agreed or position to take forward. So we see more often of these cases happening. But again, in terms of the content, I don't see any very major one which is completely out of people's expectation.
Like no big surprise.
Yes, it's just like the issue is there. It's just like the magnitude or the importance of how they attach to that issue. So they over the discussion in the past, people think maybe, oh yeah, we can take it that way and then move on. But the other people coming in maybe thinking that that is the optimal importance element. So that means, well, they have to think
it should be a priority. It has to be resolved. You have to look at it first, out of the other things. So in terms of the priority, yes. But in terms of the substances, we are not seeing a lot of like surprise in such a sense. I don't know whether it covers like the
yeah. I really like your terms of like active listening mode and not defensive mode, being humble and empathy. And it's very true that everybody expects you to have a solution to solve many problems. And many of the time your comments come from a lot of different groups of people with different priorities and concerns. So as a department, or a public government department, how much of this comment is actually, do you feel is being executed into the reality? And do you guys have a motive of actually monitoring the result? Is there such a thing of planning result that you can monitor and to continuously improve on such things? Or is there such motives?
Yeah, I think there's increasingly, we're trying to use different instruments to implement or what we call flag up the issue to make sure they will implement. For example, in some of the new town developments, people concerned about walking, connection, whatever. So what we try to do is that apart from the conventional plan, we will put in extra like design plan and then requirements to more detailedly specify these things. So in later on stage, in terms of when we dispose the land or when we build it, there will be a reminder as to provide, for example, certain the frontages will be with short front. So you have a more interactive frontage rather than people putting the chiller or the prime room, whatever on that. And also in terms of the design, whether there will be certain walkway systems or open space connection. So increasingly, we are trying to provide different levels of plan and document to highlight these things and try to fit in into the entire delivery. But I think I agree with you that like in Hong Kong, there's you can say both sides, good and bad, because we rely quite heavily on private development. That means, well, unlike other jurisdictions, if you are built by the government or anything is done by government, then it's easy. Then you can do whatever you like. But in terms of us, in terms of the timing, the actual design, we still think it's important because especially certain large-scale developments, it takes maybe years to complete. We have to allow that flexibility and also in terms of the design and also the build-up. Design is just like ladies' fashion. So there's certain evolving process. So after 10 years or 5 years, maybe people prefer certain mode. So I think that's the reason why we are juggling between the two ends. It means some people think we should have a very definitive control details. Some, on the other hand, especially like developer, they think, no, you don't need to control me. I'll do anything for you. So in these both ends, we'll try to somehow juggle around to provide certain like control or design drawings to guide it to development. And also in different stages, we try to include different things into it. For example, in the building design or the leads, and also certain things will be done by government. So through this kind of instrument, we try to do that. And also I think in Hong Kong, unlike perhaps in European cities and other countries, the planning department actually, we do not actually build anything. So that is the character of Hong Kong, or in a way you can say this downside. Because if you are not doing it, that means you really relied on all the other people to do it. If for some reason that is not their utmost priorities at that particular year, so you may need to wait another year or two before you actually get to see that. So that is the thing. But at the same time, the good side is that if the things can move on in synchronize, in a way. That means within a short period of time, there will be a number of implementation agents working for you. So you can snowball much bigger. You get a much more better results. So again, the model has its good side and also its downside. But we are like in Hong Kong, we are like that. So there's always like a debate: should the planning profession or the planning department will do something instead of relying on purely relying on other agents? There's a long discussion in the professional community. I think that the debate will be going on continuously.
I agree. Yeah, I definitely totally agree on how loose or how confined should the document or the things be, and how much flexibility so the end user or the developer can actually take control, but still execute the vision of the original vision of the plan for the city. Okay, that answered very well my question. Thank you. And I would like to save some time for the others.
Yeah, any question also from Macau side? Not, maybe Mr. Ng, there's a question from AAM. Yeah, a member's asking Sandy, explain the process of LSPS. Is it suitable to answer here?
Exactly what the LSPS process. Can you explain a little bit more in terms of the question, please?
Oh, okay. So maybe the members, can you type it, or actually we can also unmute you to talk with Mr. Ng?
I want to make it clear, so please,
Yeah.
if possible.
Yeah. Later. Yes. Okay. Is it called local strategy planning? Oh, it's typing. Yes. So maybe Mr. Wu, when I see the PowerPoint when you present, it seems to take very long time for every step. So can I ask you for example, like you have a project from Wan Chai to North Point to study, how long that you spend for the investigations and all the steps?
I think the studies went on for almost 2.5 years, something like that. Again, that's the reason why there's again two sides. Some people will think the consultation of community engagement is a good thing because you can draw in more ideas and to fit into the community. But there is also critics and quite sharply saying that increasingly the process is going longer and longer. That means all the projects take so long, and some people say by the time you finish it, they will even go as far as it becomes irrelevant. So in terms of the again, look at two sides in terms of the coverage, the community involvement and expediency. I think these two elements, we need to look at it again, and especially now, how we can retain the interaction, but somehow we can shorten the time and make it more compact. So that is the, I think the next challenge will be on that.
Okay. For
example, I see the in terms of the reason like COVID, the pandemic, there's the challenges. At the same time, perhaps it allows people to get more familiar with technology. That means in terms of the next stage of consultation, of engagement, we should allow these things to come in and use the technologies to help other people bring in more people. So perhaps by doing so, we can somehow reduce the time and then make it compact. Mind you, at the same time, on these kind of tools, there will be a way, for example, the less able groups or people, less technology competence, or they are not having the capacity in terms of the internet access, how to connect these people is another element we need to look at. And also this pandemic has highlighted the importance of these less able in terms of the technology science groups. I think that is another element we need to look at how to bring them in.
Okay,
Yes.
Mr. Moon, yeah, member Mr. Cock also typed here is land sharing pilot scheme. So yeah, I mean, Mr. Cock would like to know more about that. Yeah, is it suitable to clarify here?
I think the land sharing pilot scheme is still, to me, is a very early stage, and there are different proposals coming up. And I think because it's so, in a way, it's new, I think there will be a process for the government and also the proposer to figure out how to take forward and how to do it. And also, again, the community have their opinions. I think it has to be looked at in such a way, rather than just like the government and also the developer, because after all, any development will impact on a lot of people, and also the land itself and the surrounding, how will impact, and also because it's so new, that means any move will, as you may be aware, for government and in terms of the process, the precedence, whether it will set a precedence for certain others to follow. I think there will be a lot of interesting to and fro discussions as to how to take it forward and what can be done, or to what extent can be done. I think there will be still a long way to seeing a clear or more decisive or conclusive direction. That is what I've observed.
Okay, hey, Mr. Moon, there's another question. I'm not sure. It's quite interesting. Yeah, a member from Hong Kong IA, Mr. Lee Ming Chong, he's asking, the question is, one child development proposal shown by Mr. Moon, private consultants such like AAM was involved. And then in Macau, Arab was the lowest bid to get a job. So he's asking, how does Hong Kong PD to choose private consultant?
In terms of consultancy work, we have established mechanisms. That means, usually what we're trying to do is to look at the rating. How do you rate the submissions in terms of the technical side and also what we call the fee proposal. So that there are two elements involved in that. So is how well for example, we set out the brief, ask consultants to look at different aspects. So whether they have the relevant expertise and also the manpower they are aligning to it, and also whether they have any innovative idea. So these will be rated and ranked and leading to the final score, and of course the fee proposal. So there'll be like a formula in a way to work out each score, and then they come into that formula and then get the final score. Then we'll get the final score and get the award consultants to the, you can say the highest score in terms of that among all those elements. So that is how we choose the consultants.
Is there like two envelope system? I mean, also partly look at the post and partly look at the technical.
Yes, usually there's like the technical side and also the fee proposals. So it'll be what we call, yes, the two envelope system as well.
Yeah, so what's the ratio?
Oh, actually, there would different, you can say different studies, whatever, they will be slightly different. So you have to judge whether that study is, for example, is go for the extreme cases. Well, if it's very well-established routine kind of work. For example, if you do a certain a survey, you know how many people do it, whatever. You do it every year, and then so the innovative side will be maybe you do not actually innovate it in a way. It's just like asking the contractor to do the work. So of course the fee will be a major component. So there may be other expertise and people, and there will be a lower percentage. Maybe the majority of percentage will be on fee. But if you're talking about like a design, so that would be different. Whether they have the right people with the right experience in terms of that type of like design and the experience, and also the innovation, whatever, that will be different. So the fee proportion will be lower than the other side. So how the final allocation will depend on the nature of the proposal. So that is roughly how it comes into play. And also, of course, there will be a discussion about the allocation. There will be internal auditing or vetting process. So it's not just like somebody will say certain percentage, that is it. There will be an internal vetting process to see whether the allocation would be fair and reflect the best interest of the work. So that is roughly how it comes by.
Okay. It seems no further question from the Q&A chat box. And any more from AAM? Hello, Christine? Yeah, no? Yeah, okay, yeah. So really thanks for Mr. Ng for tonight's sharing. We now present a thank you shirt to Mr. Ng. Yeah. Yeah, can you share the thank you shirt? Yeah. Okay, yeah, so thank you, Mr. Ng again. Yeah, so if you have any question about tonight, you can also send the email to Hong Kong IAA for arrangement. Yeah, so yeah, thanks Christine and AAM members. Yeah, we hope to have the joint CPD next year. Yeah, so see you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Good night. Bye.
Good night.